Okay, so I have class in 3 hours, but for whatever reason, it's on my heart to record this video. So I just want to let you know that God is speaking to you. God is speaking your language. He's revealing himself to you all the time. In all that you do in your entire life, he is revealing himself to you. And I have people ask me all the time, how do you know God like you know God? How do you hear God like you hear God? How do you have the type of faith that you have? How can you just sit before him and have a conversation and hear him? I said, honey, first, don't compare your journey with my journey. And I said, all of this who, what, where, why, how, when, that's what's clouding your ability to hear him. That's clouding your ability to see him work. I said, worry about you and focus on him. He wants to talk to you more than you even want to talk to him. Most of you who know me know that God speaks to me with crosses. That's not the only way that he reveals himself to me, but it is the most common way. And usually it's when I'm going through a hard time or when I'm asking him questions. He'll show me a cross and it just confirms his presence. It confirms that he's with me. It just gives me an overwhelming sense of peace. And it just helps me so much. But that's not always, sometimes he'll randomly just show them to me. And that's okay too. And recently I was going through a hard time. It was shortly after I had moved. Many of you know that I moved and I resigned from social work and I got a part-time job in retail and all of this stuff. And now I'm in seminary, which is fantastic, and I would not trade that for the world. But at first, when it was all said and done, it was really hard for me to adjust. It happened so quick and it was really hard for me. And one day my flesh was overpowering and I was really basking in my feelings, and I was like, Lord, why did you take me from a steady income to a smaller apartment with an income that is not steady or guaranteed? Lord, I let go of my professional job and I'm back in retail. That's kind of like a low blow, and so many people look down on me for that. So many people don't understand that, and I let that get the best of me. Toward the end of the day, I said, Lord, I need to go before you. I need to just go before you, and I need to just lay it all down, and I need to be reminded of your grace. So I thought, I need to go to the woods. So I get in my car, and I'm driving to the woods, and on my way to the woods, I see a cross hanging in someone's rearview mirror. Right then, I knew that Jesus was with me, and I said, there you are, God, thank you. I get to the woods. As soon as I enter into the woods, it's an overwhelming sense of his presence, and it's beautiful. It was like he was just standing there waiting for me to enter, and he was like, here you are, draw close to me. I said, oh my gosh, and you just start crying. You can't control that. It's a presence that just makes you cry. So I go back into the woods, I find a bench, I open my book, I'm reading, I'm laughing, I'm screaming, I'm talking to him, I'm asking him questions, I'm writing, I'm doing all of these things. I'm getting it all out, because here's the thing, when I go before the Lord, I'm really raw. I lay all my emotions out. He knows them anyway. What's the point of hiding them? In the midst of all of this, I look up, and I am sitting underneath this very tall tree. It's standing like this. There's a tree directly beside it standing like this, but one of this tree's branches had fallen over this tree perfectly to where it created a beautiful cross. And the sun was coming through just right, and it lit that tree up. And I said, wow, there you are. And I left that day. I had such overwhelming peace. It was so beautiful. It's like he just came in and he just made everything okay. I slept so good that night. And this happens all the time. Not long after that, I was going through a similar thing. I was going before God, and it was horrible. And I said, Lord, why? I need to go before you. So I go into the woods, and I'm walking down this path, and the leaves are starting to display autumn's beauty. It's beautiful. But the leaves are so thick that most of the path is dark. But there's a few spots where sunlight was able to come through. And I'm walking, and I'm crying, and I'm talking, and I'm praying, and I'm kicking stones, and all of this stuff. And I approach a part of the path that's just lit up beautifully with the sun. It was just perfect. The sun was coming through, and it just illuminated that part of the path. And I'm walking up to it, not paying attention, really in my deep thought and crying. And right before me at my feet was a cross perfectly made out of sticks. Right on the path where the sun shone through. It was beautiful. I said, Lord, there you are. It was fantastic. So he does. He talks to me with crosses all the time, and other ways too. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm sitting in my living room one day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn on Netflix, and I'm going to see, and I constantly read, and I constantly listen to preachers and speakers and motivational stuff all the time. It's constantly going in. I'm analyzing, I'm reading it, I'm listening all the time. And on Netflix, I guess they have a whole section on Joyce Myers, and I'm like, what? This is crazy. So I hit play and I'm listening to her, and she's talking about taking authority and holding your thoughts captive, and she's really big into spiritual warfare, which I now am too. It's amazing, and I could create a whole entire video just on that alone. But she talked about how you are a conqueror. You need to realize the power that you have through Jesus Christ. You need to stand up for yourself and be really intentional about putting Satan behind you, because he knows your weaknesses. He knows when to attack you. He knows that stuff. Realize that you need to stand up and be a conqueror. And I was like, yes, and I'm screaming at my TV, and I'm usually moved from the couch onto the floor. I usually end up right beside my TV because I get so into it. I go to church that Sunday, and the pastor preached the same message. You are a conqueror. Know the power that you have in Jesus Christ, and do not be afraid to display it, because it's one thing to be aware that we are powerful through Jesus Christ, but it's another thing to actually know and to actually not be afraid to embrace that power that we are given through Jesus Christ. So I said, wow, I'm hearing the same thing that Joyce just said. So then a couple weeks later, sometime later, I've been dealing with something for months, and a lot of people don't know it. I fight it silently, but it got the best of me that day, and I was just overwhelmed completely. I couldn't do it anymore. So you know what I did? I went to the woods. Well, I went into nature. I went to a state park, which that's where I find God. That's where I go before God. But I drive there. Let me just paint this picture for you. I drive there, and it is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I park in front of the river, right in front of the waterfall. The leaves are just beautiful, all kinds of colors across the water. The sun is shining through on them perfectly. The breeze is so warm. All you hear is the leaves falling from the trees.